This episode will give you a real life example of why passion isn't found, it is rediscovered, and how you can do that too. Welcome to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast, a podcast helping women in career and life transitions achieve clarity on their next steps so they can transform uncertainty into an energizing next chapter. I'm your host, Kavita Ahuja, and the founder of It's My Time Now Coaching. If you're wondering what's next in your career or life, you are in the right place. Through solo and guest episodes, you'll gain practical tips, tools, and inspiration to help you uncover blocks, gain confidence, and be, do, and have what you want. I rediscovered myself after the age of 50, and I know you can too. It's my time now to help you do just that. I'm so excited you're here. Let's dive in. Are you feeling like you've lost touch with who you truly are? And are you wondering how to reignite your passions and create a life that truly fulfills you? If so, this episode is for you. I sit down with Susan Maycock, founder of the Living Upward movement, who shares her powerful story of midlife transition from a counselor and consultant to a fine arts photographer. In this episode, you'll discover how to recognize and follow the quiet inner voice calling you towards reinvention, why confidence isn't about knowing, but trusting your ability to learn, change, and grow, and practical ways to shift your mindset, become more self-aware, and create a space for new possibilities. So enjoy the episode, and don't forget to stay till the end for a very special offer just for listening from me to you. Welcome to the Midlife Reinvention Podcast, a career and life transitions podcast. If you're asking yourself, what's next? You are in the right place. I interview incredible women across the globe for this podcast who share their stories of reinvention and who will give you their insights and expertise on how to rediscover who you really are, what you really want, and how to get there in your next stage of life. This week, I am really thrilled to have on the show Susan Maycock. Susan is the visionary founder of the Living Upward movement and an acclaimed author of After Rain and the Guide to Living Upwards. She's a master teacher, a wisdom keeper, and bold catalyst for change. After 2 decades in counseling and consulting, Susan gave it all up to become a fine arts photographer of the natural world. This led her down the path to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where art and spirituality merged. In weaving them all together, she created her signature soul, medicine, body, wisdom approach to healing. It's so lovely to have you on the show today, Susan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, and thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you here. And so when we met, you'd mentioned that your reinvention was you going by your same self on a journey back home. That kind of stuck with me. So tell us about that. And were there some experiences during your midlife that kind of shaped the direction that you've taken today?
Okay, let's start with the second question.
Okay.
Midlife. What happened to me in midlife? I'm 70. So
Yes.
I have a perspective that many of your listeners don't have yet because they're not looking back yet and may not even realize what some of those moments of transition were or are during these years around 45 to 65 when I think we're really feeling that shift. And for me, I would say that the real transition for me was I had a menstrual cycle that was awful from the time I was 13 till I had my hysterectomy at 48. And I went into that with the intention that this would be life-changing for me and in a good way. And I know for every woman who goes through that, there's a lot of angst and a lot to process to make that decision. And for me, I had that frame of mind because that was like, this is it. I was
Yeah.
ready. And I was in a consulting job at that point, and I ended it. And I said, I had to take several weeks off anyway. And it was like, I'm taking more time off than that. And I'd always been the artist in me, always loved graphic design and photography. And so I decided, oh, I'm going to go get myself a good camera. And I started taking pictures, and mentors walked into my life, and people who wanted to sell my work walked into my life. And all of a sudden I found myself building a career around fine art photography. And it all started with just, oh, I just really want to get a camera and play with this. And that was the beginning of the shift. And it happened because I gave myself the space for it to happen. And it also happened because this was what was going to be this transition, closing the chapter of my life that involved having children and bleeding a lot every month and feeling I had more freedom. And so I stepped into photography with just like this sense of passion. And that led me to Santa Fe. I was taking workshops there. And then I said, oh, I want to live here. And my husband was retiring early. And we said, let's do it. Let's just go. And it created for me the most exciting and dynamic and adventure-filled decade of my life. Did I plan that passion? No. Did I leave space for it to show up? Yes. And I think that's a really important part of understanding passion and understanding reinvention. For me, it's not so much reinvention as it is rediscovery. You talk about the reason for being and following your passion. I think they're one and the same. And our reason for being is to live that passion. That's our reason. And I think that we all are designed for that. We have it where it's built into us. Energetically, physiologically, we are designed to live a passionate life. And I think what we're going through as we step into this midlife transition is saying, I want to find her again. I want to find that true self, my true nature, who I am when I can experience that freedom, when I can be untethered, when I'm not tied to those roles that define the 20s and 30s and 40s. And she's there, and she's been there all along. But of course, we've all lived lives that are messy. There's trauma, there's challenges, and all that helps us form how we're going to live in those 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Yes.
And so we step into our 50s and our 60s and our 70s, and we say, oh, wait a minute. Who is she? How did I lose her? Where is she? And can I get curious about that and be willing to question what it is that I kind of believe, and the habits I have and the expectations I'm meeting, and really question them with kindness and care, which is essential in order to find my way back to her.
Yes. Oh God, I love that. I love that. There's so many things that you said there that really resonated was when you were speaking. One of the first ones is when you said that you picked up your camera and then people started walking into your life, right? And I think that's so important to realize, like, as I talk about this a lot, is that when we find that passion or when we rediscover it, if whatever's been inside of us, and we open up, and you said to give yourself space to actually explore it and to give yourself permission to follow it, then things will happen and people will walk into your life, or circumstances will happen. And that happened to you, and you moved to Santa Fe and all these beautiful things happened. And I think that's really important for anyone listening, is if you do have that inner voice or something that's telling you that you need to rediscover this, or whatever it might be that you maybe have buried in the past or buried within you, that if you give yourself the space and the permission to explore that, then uncanny things will happen. And I also love the fact that I also think reinvention is rediscovery. It's kind of when one of the same things in a way, and then finding her again. It's like that's what it's all about. It's like who am I really? And what do I really want? So that's beautiful. It's passions is part of the equation, and it's a big one, right?
Right.
So
And I'm very big on defining the language that we all use now. What is passion? What is word? What is resilient? And a part of the end, well, what I've done is I've created a dictionary. I call it the Living Upward Dictionary. And I define these words, and so that we're all talking the same language when we settle down to talk. And also what I'm doing is I strip the word down to its essence and also make it accessible. What is passion? Passion, can I have passion? Can everybody have passion? And the answer is yes. That's part of that being, that true nature of our passion is, for me, I thought about this as I was preparing for our discussion. I think it's not the thing. It's not the photography. It's how photography made me feel. What it got me in contact with. Felt sense of being alive, of being fully engaged in life and making a joyful contribution. And that can happen with a new career in photography, or it can happen from eating a peach. That's what I mean by accessible. And that's such an important part of learning about living upward and finding our true nature is it's simple. It's accessible every day. You can be passionate every single day. And the more we experience in those little moments, like biting into a juicy peach that you just pulled off the tree and feeling so alive and connected to the sense of that peach is passion. And when we show up for that moment, then it makes it easier to show up for the next moment and then to be ready when the mentor walks into your life or the opportunity walks into your life, whatever it is. So anyway,
I love that. Yeah, the definition, because that's exactly it. The passion is, it's not really the thing, but it's how the thing makes you feel. So, Susan, explain, you mentioned living upward and your living upward movement, and you describe it as a practical, profound, and life-changing movement towards deeper awareness, clear purpose, and greater joy and connection, which sounds fabulous. But if you could explain for the listeners practically what it is, what is your movement, and what makes it so unique?
Well, we all want to live upward. We all want to live with greater joy, greater connection, and a sense of purpose, belonging, and love. And that's what we're all going for. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we get involved in the messiness of life. From childhood on, we're developing defense mechanisms. We're dealing with traumas. We're meeting challenges. And we step into adulthood and wow, we're meeting challenges and stress and dealing with anxiety all the time. And it becomes more a life of survival than it does one of thriving. Survival is important, yet so is thriving. So how do we bring those into balance? And that's the heart of living upward. How do we get back on track? Because we're all trying to do the same thing. Like I said, we all want to be more joyful. We all want to be more connected, more purposeful, and love and be loved. And so how do we weave through all the life experiences that have kind of defined who we are? And that's what I'm helping people with, is finding that path forward, taking that journey. And it is a lifetime journey, and it's a lifetime of practicing. And that's part of it too, to help people understand there's no getting there. There's no destination. There's only the journey, direction, and the path. And the path is kind of a spiral upward. And what we do is we dive into ourselves and learn about who we are, who we've been all along. It's the journey into self-awareness. And then it's the expression of that out into our lives. And then that leads us back again into deeper self-awareness. And then we express that back into our lives. And we continue to practice. and we forgive ourselves when we don't. And so at the heart of living upward there's several themes. One is self-awareness. What does it mean to be self-aware? And what it means to be self-aware is to two things, two levels. Show up in the moment, be present, bring ease into your life so that you have more space to be present. And then in that space, you begin to discover your true nature, which is one of total well-being. You were born, destined to live with well-being, to be well-being, not live with it, to be it. So that's number one, understanding who we are and how we find her, because it's actually pretty easy. And I teach you how to do that. The other one is, what does it mean to live an intentional life? And we all think it's about setting those goals and being mindful about those goals. And that's not where it starts. It starts with deciding who I'm going to be. So self-awareness, we discover our true nature is well-being. And then we choose it. We learn to make the choice. This is who I'm going to be as I show up in this moment. Today, as I sit down to be at this podcast, who am I going to be? Am I going to be the person that was rushing around an hour ago? No, I'm going to show up present, engaged, grateful. And so that's where intention begins. And then again, as your word too, aligning it with our well-being.
Yes.
Aligning that well-being with what we do. It's what we bring to the moment. That's the first part of the intention. And so this is a big shift for people to hear this. It's like, wow, I have the choice about who I can be. I can choose it. Once I know it, that's the self-awareness. Then there's the choosing. And then there's looking at what gets in the way. And what gets in the way is the beliefs, the expectations, the habits that we've developed that we think are who we are. We've come to believe that my habit of always needing to have everything organized and just right is just like my nature.
Yeah.
No, it's a habit that works for me in order to keep myself safe, to keep myself on track, to keep myself alive, whatever it is. We learn these habits and they get so ingrained that we think that's who we are. We begin to compare ourselves to others and say, well, she can do it and I can't, or I'm better than she is. There's this whole competition over worthiness. And what we end up doing is just separating ourselves from one another.
Yeah.
So there's a whole process of questioning beliefs, but questioning them with kindness, questioning them with compassion. Then understanding the science of all this is very reassuring. And I always bring this in. Understanding that we're physiologically designed to survive, number one. And that we do all these things and we set up all these defense mechanisms and create all these belief systems because they work. They keep us feeling safe. And yet we also are thrivers. We're meant to thrive. We're designed physiologically. Our nervous system, it's beautiful. It's amazing. The brain, the heart, and the nervous system working together to help us thrive, which means to feel safe in connection with others, not separating ourselves from others like we do when we're surviving. It's like, get me out of here. And when we thrive, we feel safe when we're involved in community and we're belonging and we're engaged. So how do we bring those two things into balance? We need both. And so living upward is very much about how do we create balance between effort and ease, between survival and thriving, between the dark, shadowy parts of ourselves and the light parts. They're all us. And then finally, another kind of paradigm shift is that we create our own abundance.
Yeah.
And we do it through our engagement of the cycle of giving and receiving, through gratitude and generosity. And that's what drives abundance and understanding that we already have everything we need. So those are kind of the principles.
Wow.
And the practice comes from the unique resources and tools that I use, which are both of my books.
I mean, from what you described, it's really I'd say a lifelong journey almost, and it's just
It is
digging deeper and deeper. And so the 5 components, if I've got them right, are self-awareness, and second is, what does it mean to live an intentional life? And the third is, what gets in the way?
Yeah.
Like, if I'm really breaking it down to.
Yeah.
And then the fourth is, it's the balance between thriving and surviving, or surviving and thriving. And then
understanding, and understanding again that we are designed for that.
Yes.
And kind to ourselves and actually see ourselves as brilliant.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And then the fifth is, we create our own abundance, and by recognizing it through gratitude. That's the journey, right? I would say of life. And if we can achieve those, I mean, you definitely are living upward. And I love that. I love the title of that, Living Upward, because you say that we're all designed to live upward, right?
Yes.
And meant to live in purpose. And I think that is a beautiful theme and a beautiful thought. There's so many challenges that we often experience that sometimes it stops us from living upward, or following our passions, or living this upward life. So how practically in our lives do we face these challenges? Do we move on? And how have you done that? I know it's a big question, but maybe just some examples of what we could do to overcome some of these challenges that seem to really stop us in our tracks.
Yeah, there are 2 aspects to that question that I would like to address. And the first is that challenges are, well, obviously they're big and small, and they can definitely throw us off track. And we tend to think and have the belief that they're distractions, or they're diversions, or that they're out there somewhere messing up our lives. And we don't see that within that challenge is an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's like, yeah, but it's still hard. But again, I'm 70, and looking back, I can see that the challenges a lot of times held the next direction for me, the next opportunity. And one of the things that has allowed me to see that I have to remember is that the tendency when we meet a challenge or come face to face with it, whether it's a flat tire or a sick child or across the spectrum, that the first step is, for me, has always been, oh, I'm going to fix it. That's actually my form of resistance to what was happening, to fix it. Whatever is happening and we're not acknowledging and accepting it, we're resisting it. And we think that's the strongest, most powerful thing to do, is to fight back, to fix whatever. And it's not where we start. That comes out of our fear and anxiety and our physiological smartness for how to respond in a situation that requires survival. But I make the case that if we start with acceptance, saying, okay, here I am. This is what I've been presented with. And the other part of acceptance, and actually I think the more important part of acceptance, is accepting how I feel about it. I'm scared to death because here I am in the emergency room with my daughter after she passed out at a cross-country race. So acknowledging that here I am, this is the situation, here we are, we're in the emergency room, she's passed out, and I am extremely frightened. That's acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
That's step. And if we can do that and say, okay, here I am in this situation, feeling scared, feeling angry, whatever your feeling is about what's going on, just feeling anxious, but starting there and saying, I still love myself.
Yeah.
Here I am in this emergency room, feeling frightened, not knowing what to do, and I still love myself. I love myself. that can become an affirmation in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is we accept what's happening and how we feel about what's happening. And then it allows us the space to see other possibilities. And that's really what it's all about, is opening that space for possibilities. And then the challenge becomes still frightening, but it becomes an opening for other ways of handling it.
Right.
Than the old automatic response. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to talk to that doctor. I'm going to tell him what he should do, blah, blah, blah.
It's interesting. It's interesting you say that when you were describing this, it really brings up something that I talk about a lot, and you might have heard about it, is the difference between catabolic and anabolic energy. And when we're under stress, when we have obstacles or things that come our way, then a lot of times it's responding with a catabolic or a destructive type of energy where we're fear or like blame or emotions where it's negativity, right? And often when even in situations like at work, like if you're in a stressful situation and if you respond with that catabolic energy, there's no opportunity to see, there's no chance to see that opportunity versus if you take the pause and allow yourself the space, like you just said, and move yourself into an anabolic or positive state, then where it's like, okay, what is the opportunity in this challenge? This is just what you said, right? And when you start thinking that way, then that's all that anabolic energy, positive energy gets created where you do see the possibilities, you do see solutions. I wanted to interject there because I think that really aligns
that's right on track with the science too.
It's all about the hormones too that gets released, right? All the hormones that get released in our bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those hormones, if they become excessive, then it's hard to make your way back. I mean, it's important to acknowledge that we're designed to deal with that stress, like to throw all our resources into it.
Mm-hmm.
And if we live like that all the time, we're drenched in those hormones.
Yeah.
And it gets very hard to get back to that anabolic process and to the coherence, which is the same thing. If we're always in the dissonant energies of anger and anxiety and stress, then that's what we're responding from, that place. And that's not who we truly are. Who we truly are is this coherent energy. And if we can bring ourselves back to that, and acceptance is just that. It's coherence.
So I kind of wanted to maybe switch a little bit. One last kind of thought about gaining confidence. Like like when we're going through these transitions, like for example, you went from your counseling and your consulting work to pursuing your photography, which is totally different from what you were doing before. And a lot of women who come to me, for example, are also thinking, I want to pursue something. I want to change my careers or pursue a passion or start a business and all this, but they just don't have the confidence in themselves to do that. And I did this, I had the same. I went from the corporate world to coaching and what I'm doing now. And so what would you say to these women? How did you gain the confidence to follow your path? And what would you recommend for them?
So thinking about confidence too, again, and a definition for it. How would I define confidence? And again, how, in a way that strips it down, takes away any beliefs we have about it, and makes it accessible to everybody. And for me, confidence then would be trusting in our capacity to learn, change, and grow. Which is how I define resilience, the capacity to learn, change, and grow. And trusting it, that again, that it's part of you. It's who you are. You can learn, you can change, you can grow. You want to. It's built in, you want to. There are things that, again, that have happened to us that kind of, we've built defenses and habits around to protect ourselves. So we lose sight of it. But again, it's there. You're designed to learn, change, and grow. Just like any plant out in the garden. It's designed to do what's written in its DNA, how to get roots, to grow a stalk, to grow leaves, to make flowers, to make fruit, we're the same way. So I, again, would emphasize to everybody that you've got it. You've got it. And so it's a matter of gaining the self-awareness that it's there. And when I think about my shifts into the next thing, it's always been, I'm going to come back to your word, passion. It's always been because I'm eager to learn, change, and grow. I want it. And because I love feeling alive and engaged in something new and exciting. I love the curiosity of it. I love the creativity of it. And so it calls to me, but it can only reach me. The call can only reach me if I'm allowing some ease in my life. If I'm constantly in the mode like this, getting things done, moving on, dealing with this, dealing with that, and I never let it go, I'm not going to find it. Never going to find it. The confidence doesn't matter. The passion doesn't matter because I'm just like this. Because the confidence, the possibilities for what you can enjoy with your passion are in this. They're in the ease. They're in the spaciousness that we create in our lives. They're in the slowing down, in the lowering of the intensity, in the less pressure. Just like simple things like, can you brush your teeth with less pressure? Can you wash your face with less pressure? And just feel the possibilities in the moment. That's where it all starts. So I encourage people to start small, to find passion in drinking their coffee in the morning. Feel alive as you touch that cup. Feel its warmth, smell the aroma, feel the taste. And that's a beginning. It's like, oh yeah, oh wow. You know, walking the dog, washing your face, washing your hair, just doing it with more presence and more aliveness, more ease, more self-love. And that kind of practice with those small things makes your awareness of the bigger opportunities bigger. I don't know if there's anything bigger than experiencing that, biting into that peach or being out in nature. So find those moments and then let them grow into other moments.
I love that.
And it doesn't happen every moment.
No.
You could do it for 10 seconds. For 10 seconds,
yes, right.
You bring your awareness to that moment. And then
breathe.
Yes. And notice how it brings the next one into.
Well, it shifts it, right? It shifts the energy. Shifts. Back to that energy. It shifts it.
Exactly.
Right? So, and that gives you the confidence to move forward.
Then when you go into that meeting, you will have brought that 10 seconds with you.
Exactly. Yeah. Wonderful. Wow, so much. I mean, I feel your passion for what you do. It's palpable. So tell us a little bit about your books. How did you come to write these? And just give us a taste of what the books are about.
And the book and I wrote it as a gift of gratitude for those people who had touched my life. And so it originally was going to be just that, a gift of gratitude. And then I realized, it could be a gift of gratitude to everybody. And then they can gift it as a gift of gratitude to those in their lives. And it's really been very meaningful for a lot of people. A lot of people use it as an oracle card deck. They just open it in the morning to a page and discover that this story is really about my day. And so people would ask me about it. I'd say, well, it's about living upward. That was just the phrase I started using. Practical spirituality, living upward. And then they'd say, oh, what's that? And then I realized it's really what I've been learning to live myself, what I've been conveying in the work I've done in counseling, consulting, soul medicine, body wisdom. It's what it's been about all the time. So I began to develop the Guide to Living Upward, which is a companion to After Rain, because it brings these reflections from this book into practice. How do you go from reflecting on compassion to being compassionate? And so this is set up with 33 themes on living upward, things like resilience, compassion, forgiveness, survival, thriving, living the intentional life, becoming more self-aware, but there are themes that teach you how to do it. And so you're given prompts that get you to explore your experience with it. You're given readings from After Rain that give you a new way to think about it. You're given definitions from the dictionary that help you see, oh, this is possible for me. And then you're given a practice, which might be guided meditation. It might be putting on your socks with gratitude.
Mhm.
And there are QR codes that you can follow along with me guiding you through meditations. And then it's all summed up. Each theme is summed up with a statement of the profound. What was the experience you just had? And how can this have meaning in your life? So it's all brought together. So each theme has 4 pages. So you have space to journal about your practice. You have space to journal about your own experience with that theme.
I love that because often we have these philosophies or concepts which are wonderful to read about, but you've actually given a guide to how to
Absolutely. Yep.
implement them into your life, which is, I think, so practical and so needed. In anything that you're facing at the moment, just go to the one theme.
Exactly. It gets to
And,
be,
and
yes. I'm also going to start what I call Stay True sessions and have a Stay True community. So like once a month, there'll be gatherings on a theme and going into it in more depth. So you can join the Stay True community. And then I also am starting a program for coaches, be better coaches, and how you can get certified to be a living upward coach.
I really appreciate your valuable insights and practical examples from your own life as well. And I would encourage anyone who's listening to please pick up the books, and we'll have the links in our show notes so you can pick them up. Well, thank you so much, Susan, for being on the show and
Thank you for
sharing your wisdom. And if there's any last words that you have for the audience before we leave.
It's all possible. You can do it. You're designed to do it. And it's just a matter of getting the support and guidance to find your way.
Yeah.
So,
and live upwards, right? Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And as we've learned from Susan's incredible journey, passion isn't about what you do. It's about how it makes you feel. It's about reconnecting with a part of you that feels alive and engaged and deeply fulfilled. And the truth is, that version of you has always been there. You just need to create space to rediscover her. So, where do you stand right now in your own career and life fulfillment? If you're wondering whether you're truly aligned with what brings you joy, take my Career and Life Fulfillment Quiz. In less than a minute, you'll get an instant score showing where you are today, plus personalized strategies to help you move towards a more fulfilling life. So click the link in the show notes now to take the Career and Life Fulfillment Quiz today and start your journey towards rediscovering your passion and purpose. Until next time, my friend, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep living upwards.